John Wright or Miguel? Miguel, okay. So Mr. John Wright is not coming? That's not a
No,
good
sir.
sign.
They should be joining. They were having some trouble joining. I'll make sure that they can come in.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. We'll be with you in just a minute. Yeah, they have someone. They're not in the report because they started afterwards, which is why they didn't want to come. But
I swear by Almighty God that the evidence I shall give to this honorable legislative assembly shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
thank you. Bernie, I want to see you. Yeah. Hello, good morning. Mr. Trickett, we welcome you to the committee, and we wish to also welcome Mr. Miguel Da Ponte, and is Mr. Wright, has Mr. Wright joined us yet?
Just trying to get him on.
Okay.
Apologies.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, well, you know, sir, you've been informed that we're looking at the multi-year reports of the pension plan, and because there's so many years under consideration, we're looking at the global position, and we know that you were not part of those reports, but you're part of the pension plans that are being provided locally. So we need to ask you some questions related to the overall governance and the structure to make sure that we are complying with what we believe are our best practices. And we're not dealing with individual years because there's just so much of it, but we're dealing with a more global approach to it. So the only rule we have is that you all can decide who's answering the question. That's entirely up to you. If more than one person needs to answer, that's fine. If you don't have an answer in a specific thing, we have no problem with you providing it on the email to manessaweb@gov.ky within the next couple of days. We'll ask you that when you're answering the first question, you give your full name and title and company that you represent so that will appear accurately in the Hansard records. You don't need to do it every time, just on the first time that you answer. So without any further ado, I'll invite Mr. Chris to start the questioning.
Good morning, gentlemen, and thank you for attending this morning's session. As the chair, just to expand on what the chairman said, these sessions are more for information purposes more than anything else. The committee will, I think I can speak for a member of the committee in saying that we recognize the importance of pension, but we also accept that with the delay in these reports, I mean, granted that none were filed or made public since the 2008 financial crisis, and the public interest that is now surrounding pensions as a result of the recent change of the law, we think it would be best and give every organization an equal opportunity. So what we didn't also want to do was invite some companies and not invite some companies, because in essence, some would also be getting free marketing to some extent by being here today and having this televised. So we don't want anyone to accuse us of at least giving someone more, I guess, free airtime or publicity than anything else. So that's the reason why you guys were also invited as a matter of completeness. But also it's an opportunity more to tell the company about yourselves, your vision, your mission, your investment profile, and what it is that we can expect. As noted, you are not included in the annual reports, but like I said, this is a matter of fairness and completeness, because we believe that the overall culture needs to change and the overall public perception and also public education with regards to pension needs to change. So this is really what we're here for today. It's not adversarial. It's more meant to be informative for ourselves as committee members who represent people, but also, again, for your employees, and your customers and potential customers once they have an opportunity to hear what it is that your organization is about. So it is in that vein that you guys are invited here today, and it's more for informational purposes than anything else. Your organization is also regulated by the Department of Labor and Pension, which constitutionally, I think Section 87 of the Constitution, this Public Accounts Committee has access to pretty much all the government departments, accounts, ministries, SAGCs, everyone. So by extension, it gives us the ability to also do their oversight to make sure that what they have included in the reports are pretty much reflect what the industry also says is there. So it's kind of a check and balance, really. But like I said, it's more for informational purposes than anything else. Especially, like we said, you guys were excluded from the original reports that have been released. So with that preamble, the first question, which is a standard question, is this is an opportunity to tell us about the Island Heritage Pension, what it is you guys are looking to achieve, your investment profile, your risk profile, and pretty much, what it is that the customers can expect, or the people of the Cayman Islands can expect from your organization. Thank you.
Sure, if I may start, it's Miguel DuPont, and my title is Senior Vice President, Pensions and Investments of BF&M Group, which is the parent company that owns the Island Heritage Restricted Trust Company, and also the Island Heritage Pension Plan, if you will. So from a strategic perspective, in Bermuda, we are number one or number two in terms of pension assets and total client base. Total assets for us are about 1.3 billion across the board. We view Cayman as being very, very similar to Bermuda, so therefore a natural enhancement to our strategy through Island Heritage Insurance Company, which we also own on the P&C side. We saw it as a natural extension of our business in Cayman. So from a strategic perspective, it's very, very important for us. It's one of two major growth areas for us as a company, as a parent company. There's lots of commitment from the company to expand the product in Cayman. Darren, who's in attendance, is testament to that and is a major part of our expansion there. In terms of plan design, we offer actually three types of plans to people in terms of investment selection. We offer two types of prepackaged selections. So one is your traditional profiles, which we call risk-based profiles, and those are profiles where persons would choose their investment mix based on how risky they think they are. So if they are a risky person, they will pick an aggressive profile, and if they are a conservative person, they would pick a conservative profile. In addition to that, we also offer something called target date investing, and this is where individuals can choose their investment mix based on the date that they are going to retire. So it takes away some of the biases which may occur around choosing whether you are an aggressive person or not. You simply say, I'm going to retire close to 2040, so I'm going to choose the 2040 profile. What we also offer within the confines of the rules laid down by the Department of Labor and Pensions, we do offer people the ability to self-direct. So we have a lineup of 15 individual funds, asset classes, if you will, and our members have the ability within the rules of and the prescribed limits of the pension plans laid down by the Department of Labor and Pensions to self-direct. So therefore, a member could choose to be 30% in bonds and 10% in cash and the remainder in equities, should they choose. So it's a pretty open plan from that perspective. We are small at the moment, so just eclipsing 9 million. We have, I believe it's 14 groups on board at the moment and about 144 individuals. So we are the babies, so to speak. But Darren is doing a very, very good job in terms of trying to increase our market share slowly but surely. I think that's a good summary of where we stand. We do view, from, as I said, from a strategic perspective, pensions as a growth area, and we view Cayman, it's somewhere where we want to, plant our flag and grow the business.
Thank you very much. Well, I can, just a matter of full disclosure, I have worked with Darren in the past. I know he's very customer-centric, and I know he's a very capable young man because I've seen him grow in other businesses before. So I can attest to his ability to do that. I must say that. One of the things I'm curious about, as you just said, being the baby coming in, is that naturally, as a new organization coming in, and you're looking, in this case, for organic growth, where you're looking to grow not from buying another business, but rather from acquiring other customers. It means then that realistically that you would have seen an opportunity or a market segment not being served by the current providers. I mean, fairly coming in new into what some would have considered a mature market. So, I mean, if it's not just too much, just out of my morbid curiosity, what exactly was the opening you saw, or what wasn't being done that you said, you know what? Cayman is underserved, or Cayman would be better served by this particular product or service. So I'd be very curious about that one.
Sure. I mean, we probably researched the market for about 3 years before entering, and we're lucky enough to have the business relationships with the group companies in Cayman through Island Heritage. I think what we found in our discussions with people were, one, they were upset with the transparency around fees. And the way that we handle that is in an annual basis. Every member and every group that is with us receives a fee disclosure, which very clearly lays out the investment fees and what is being charged and how that's being taken out, and then the fees that are charged by the Island Heritage Pension Plan. So it's very, very easy to read. The other was service. We found that a lot of the companies deemed pensions to be, once they have it, and there was not a lot of service on the ground, education sessions with the employees, and just general education around pensions in general, and particular retirement. If I can add an aside to that, I would say, unlike in Bermuda, I think one of the reasons that may be is there's a very strict delineation in Cayman between being able to provide investment/retirement advice and providing a pension plan. That is something that we've recognized, and I as a result, we may be opening a new business soon to kind of make sure we're abiding by that specifically. But in terms of customer service, I think that is a detractor, because there are some things in Cayman that we don't do that we offer in Bermuda, because the Bermuda legislation around offering advice on certain things is much more open than the CIBIL license, for example, in Cayman, that you need to give investment advice. But that being said, service was one element. The other element was a lack of choice, the lack of ability for individuals to self-direct. And when we looked at that, and we looked at that very, very hard, what we found was most of the providers on island were operating under what we would call a fund-of-funds model. So they operate their risk profiles more like mini mutual funds, if you will. And what that essentially means is that while that little mini fund risk profile may constitute 12, 10, 7, 15 different investments, the individual did not have the ability to choose each one of those individual investments. Now, the way that we operate operationally is different from that. We don't subscribe to a fund to funds model. Even though you may be in a risk profile, operationally, the way that we would work is if you sent us, say, $100 for your contribution, even if your risk profile was 50, 25, 25, we just take that $100 and we split it up between those three funds. What that allows us to do is offer this choice element of people to self-direct. From what we could see in the law did not say you couldn't offer that. The law simply said that if you offer that, any mix that people are in for the plan as a whole has to be within the certain guidelines. So this ability to choose was another element that we thought we could leverage because of our operating model. The last one was passive investments. Now that's changed over the past 2 years. We've seen a lot of competitors offer a lot of passive index investing, but 3 years ago when we started, we were offering that already, and that was an opportunity as well for us. So I would say service, transparency of fees, and investment mix and the ability to self-direct is probably the three things we always chime on. Darren, did you want to add anything else? Because you've been, Darren and I talk on a weekly basis, by the way, but being on the ground, Darren, is there anything else that you're experiencing now where you think we excel?
Mr. Speaker, elected members, listening public, good morning. Darren Trickett, Island Heritage Retirement Trust Company, and I am the pension relationship and sales manager. Miguel, I think the only thing really to add to that is beyond choice is control. Our members have a very comprehensive web portal that they have access to that gives them an element of control, and it also builds engagement. And I think that's something that's very important, is to get people to engage with their pension, so it's not just something that's out there that's a bit of a myth or a mystery, but something that they can actually touch and interact with. And we do that through the portal, and it allows them to not only see all of their statements, but also to change their investment allocations if they wish. They can update their contacts, they can look at their contribution history and summaries. There's a wealth of information in there in terms of the fact sheets. So each of the 15 funds that my colleague mentioned, each of those, there's a fact sheet. There's also a quarterly newsletter that we publish that is available within the member portal. So there's a huge amount of information there, and one of our challenges, if you will, is to get individuals to take an interest in what is there, because I think that when it comes to pensions, a lot of individuals look at it as something of a necessary evil, and we'd like to sort of change that perception to something that, if they pay attention early days, it'll really make a difference to the long-term, not just performance, but the outlook and what they have, when it comes to retirement, because that's really what pensions is all about.
Thanks very much. I noticed from your audited financial statement that you guys had entered into an agreement with BF&M Insurance Company to perform certain administrative and custodial functions. Can you tell us a little bit more about what BF&M, what they're about, and pretty much what that agreement would pretty much entails? Because it looks as if a lot of it would be using BF&M.
Sure. So BF&M Group is the parent company for both Island Heritage Restricted Retirement Trust Company. We are a pan-Caribbean multi-line insurer, so we offer personal lines, P&C, health, and pensions. Pensions is a flagship product for us. As I mentioned, 1.3 billion assets in administration. So basically, what BF&M is doing for the Island Heritage Pension Plan is leveraging the operational and administrative processes that we have been built with running the pension plans in Bermuda for over 30 years. So it's simply an extension of that business and providing that service to the pension plan in Cayman.
Out of curiosity, how long has BF&M been around in totality?
BF&M is over 100 years old in its various forms, and always been based in Bermuda.
Okay. Quick, just out of curiosity, in terms of, you said you've been fairly young. Since the laws passed, have you guys received any of your clients looking to take advantage of any of the pension withdrawals or anything like that? And if so, what percentage or what amount, and what's the value that you're looking at that you may probably end up paying out?
Mr. Chair, through you. Yes, we have. We have so far about 40% of our member base has taken a withdrawal to date. That equates to circa 1.6 million US dollars. It's not a large figure because we're not a large plan as yet. Our anticipation is that will continue. Obviously, the withdrawal window is open until the end of October. We don't know. I think what we know is that we have about 3 million US that's at risk of being taken out. You know, it could be that we reach the 2 million mark, or it may be that we surpass that. It's time will tell.
And in terms of processing time, will you guys be compliant with the law? Did you respond to the people within a certain time, and the payouts will be within the 45-day limit? And have you made any payments yet, or when can your clients probably expect to receive some payments, if they haven't received any as yet?
This is probably one of the other differences that we haven't yet spoken about, but all of the funds that we use have daily valuations, or NAVs, as we call them, net asset value. And it results in the ability to turn these sorts of things, withdrawals, fund redemptions, around very quickly. So we are generally making payments within 30 days. And to that end, I think we've probably made around about 30 payments to date of applications that have come in since the 1st of May. You know, I think that obviously there's a 45-day window. We'd like to do it much more quickly if possible. We realize that this is an emergency withdrawal situation. We'd like to get members their money as quickly as possible. So we're sort of aiming for about the 3-week line, and I think that we're getting most, if not all of them, done within 30 days.
Being new to the market, granted that you'd have seen opportunities naturally why you'd have entered the market, but since this short time that you've been here in the market, is there anything that you think that we can be doing different or should be doing different that you think would actually maximize return or actually help your clients and slash the employees, or pretty much the people it is that we all work for? Is there anything that we can be doing different, or is there something that Bermuda has that Cayman needs to do to make it the returns better for your clients?
Miguel Dupont here again. I'll go first, Darren. I know you have some views as well, but I think from our perspective, having the choice and making, you know, that ability to choose around the investment restrictions, perhaps a little bit more open, may be good. I think some definitive guidelines around fee disclosure would be interesting for members of the plan across the whole. I think that would increase the trust in the system if you had that. And I'm talking about this as a chartered financial analyst as well, not just a person that operates in the market. I think also having some guidelines around who has oversight of the plan, and making sure there are qualified individuals dealing with that would be helpful as well. even if they were general guidelines. Um, Lastly, I think perhaps in conjunction with SEMA cleaning up this or figuring out a mutual ground with respect to what type of advice us as pension providers could provide would probably increase the level of service and also eliminate this gray area of what people can say and what people can't say around advice, because that's the type of questions that we get. Well, how much money do I need for retirement? How long is it going to last? What type of vehicle should I be using, if any, when I retire? What are the impacts of saving an extra $500 a day? And we try and educate people as much as possible on that within what we think is applicable under the law. But it is a little bit of a gray area. That would be it from kind of a broader plan perspective. Darren, being on the ground, you may have other thoughts as well.
I don't normally answer a question with a question, but when you said, is there something more we can do, I wondered if you were talking about the government or the pension administrators.
No. Sorry, sorry, I wasn't clear. In terms of as policymakers, in terms of legislation, and even in terms of Department of Labor and Pension from a supervisory standpoint, because ultimately the law is clear, the National Pensions Law, that these pensions are set up for the benefit of the employees. And one of the things that we have heard from witnesses over the last 2 days and today's day 3 is that there are some limitations, and it means that there are some things that we need to change to make it better for the employees. So one of the things is that you guys would have been more newer in your analysis in terms of the Cayman market. So granted, you'd have seen opportunities, but also naturally doing any sort of analysis, you would also have seen certain threats too from that standpoint. And I'd be curious to know, we have discussed opportunities, but what do you see as potential threats or things that if we don't fix this or that's not adjusted or dealt with, then that'll be a bigger problem going down the line?
Mr. Chair, through you, I think that my colleague has spoken to most of the challenges. I think that one that I could probably point out is that the onboarding process. So the process of bringing on a new client, be it a new company or a company that wishes to switch pension providers, is quite an onerous process. And especially with regard to switching providers, there's the need to have a meeting with the management, which then goes on generally to a wider audience, which then there's a 14-day notice before you can actually have a meeting with the staff. The staff have to vote. There has to be a majority position for the change. The change has to be, the form has to be filled out to be submitted to the Department of Labor and Pensions. That has to be approved. After approval, the plan has to be set up, and on and on. The lag time between starting those discussions and actually onboarding a plan is somewhere in the region of probably 3 to 6 months. We haven't even talked about moving the assets if members wish to move their assets from one plan to another, and that is not something I think that you could have any influence or control over, but it generally takes another few months thereafter to onboard those assets. So it is a lengthy process. There are some areas there that could probably be shortened or tidied up, but that's the only thing I would suggest maybe adding to what Miguel has said.
But we were given
Mr.
evidence.
Chair.
Okay, go ahead, Miguel.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, if I may add one other thing. I believe the restrictions around AVCs is something else. The contribution of AVCs, or additional voluntary funds, if you will, in Cayman is very, very restrictive. And what that actually leads to in our discussions with people is a reluctance to contribute to the plan, because essentially they can't use that money in the near term if they need it. It's basically locked in until they retire. You have the opportunity through these pension plans to have a very easy way of people contributing to their retirement or to just their overall investment savings on an island where there is not much support after people retire. How that is handled in other jurisdictions is that your voluntary money is very much free and clear. So you can contribute that; it is yours. You could eventually remove it at any point in time. But typically, what we find is that people will add extra, and then leave it there until they retire. So you have a really cost-effective, simple investment vehicle in the pension plans and the pension systems that people are afraid to use because of the limitations around the voluntary contributions. And that is very, very much apparent in everyone that we speak to, whether it is a white collar firm or a blue collar firm. We get a lot of people that say, I would like to contribute more to my pension plan, but I can't touch it. Even when I retire, there are limitations around that. So, you know, transparency of fees and that voluntary portion are two major things, I think, compared to other jurisdictions that may be of benefit.
Yeah, what I was going to say was, we received evidence on Wednesday that this process of portability and transferring memberships and assets was basically something that you could do in 24 hours by simply completing this form, and basically it was done. It's very interesting to hear your experience that it takes that length of time, because if we're going to design the pension plan to give the members the freedom of choice and be able to move it, then that is one of the things that we believe needs to be, I guess liberated is the wrong word, but it needs to be streamlined so it is easier to do. And I have found that from personal experience that when the discussion is started about transferring from one pension plan to the other, there seems to be some reluctance, and there is implied discouragement from doing so. And I mean, I've had direct experience with this in trying to transfer my wife, who's been here for 10 years and wound up members of 4 different plans, depending on who she worked for. And that's one of the things that I think we need to streamline and get in place with BICSIT and promote it, getting back to our evidence we got earlier about having information on the DPL website and portal that compares the plans so that people can make informed decisions of where they would want to put their plan. How do you feel about that?
Mr. Chair, I do agree with you, and just to add some clarification, I think that you know, the portability issue, it's very easy for a member to fill out a form. In trying to offer something of a concierge level service, I tend to fill out the forms for the members and only have them sign and put in their member numbers, and then I collect them back and I submit them. And that way we don't get any of the resistance that I think you were told about on Wednesday, where members may be discouraged from transferring their assets. Notwithstanding, there is a time lag. Obviously, investments cannot be liquidated overnight. So there is an amount of time that would be taken to transfer those over, and then for those to be reinvested once we were to get those assets over. I'm sorry, there was another aspect?
The question I was asking, do you think it would be appropriate to put some timelines on that decision and implementation of my decision to move? In other words, when I complete the form and submit it, should I be able to complete the transaction within 60 days, which would allow for the liquidation of and stuff, as opposed to leaving it undefined, and it might tend to get lost in that famous file 13?
Yes, and I believe there is a timeline, and whether it's something that is stated in the law or not, I don't know. But on the forms, it generally says that the assets will take 6 to 8 weeks to be transferred. It generally can happen within that period of time.
Thank you all very much for attending the session, and we certainly appreciate the information you have provided us with. And we should have the report tabled and published in the near future, depending on how often the Legislative Assembly meets. So the report will be available for the public from this committee. Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
You too.
You too.
Bye.
Meeting is suspended until 1:30 when we have the next client coming in. Silver Touch at that time.